Because I'm elitist, the southern elitist, you know how it rolls. Tissues are behind us if anybody needs them. Good evening, hello. Welcome to this conversation about homelessness and Killingly. I'm the Reverend Dr. Jonathan Chapman, pastor of Westfield. And I'm very grateful to you that you were here. When we first sort of established this event maybe a month and a half ago, I was certain that it was going to be my old faithfuls who would be here, sort of like the church ladies who come to everything. And you have proven me wrong, and I'm very, very grateful for that. They're wonderful, but I like it when others show up too. So our time here together, we're live streaming this just so everybody knows, or folks who will be watching from home, you can follow up and watch this or share it either from Westfield's Facebook page, our YouTube stream, or there may be people watching it on our website right now. But when we get to a time of conversing together, just know that your image is going to be online and what you say is going to be there, so keep that in mind. We're going to start with some intentional conversation with some major stakeholders in this particular challenge, but I do want to offer some parameters around it. So one, our goal is to kind of stay out of the political side of this. That's a challenge because the issue is undoubtedly political, but our objective is to approach it from a place of compassion. suffering. And so the question is, how do we lessen their suffering? As a pastor, I don't assume everybody's Christian. It's totally chill with me if you're not. But for me, the question is, Jesus says, love your neighbor, and who is our neighbor, right? And so if you're culturally Christian or a person of faith, I think that's a place that you will want to start with me. Also, another parameter, we're talking about killing, specifically killing. This is a big issue across our country, across our state, across Windham County, but we can't take on all of that. We're talking here. As Westfield is helping to push this conversation, we've been taking care of the heart of Killingly since 1750. These are our people, you are our people, and we're going to start there. That doesn't mean we're not going to talk about the broader implications, but it is to say that we're going to try not to bite off more than we can chew. So we're going to stick with sort of the Killingly context of that. We're going to talk about some of the barriers and the realities of our homeless population in our particular areas and the unique circumstances that they encounter in Killingly. Then we're going to talk some about some people's personal experiences, stories, what motivates us to do this work. Then we're going to talk some about what opportunities there are to pitch in. So when we came in, we asked everybody to kind of sign in and get some email. We will follow up with you afterwards. There's no pressure. We're not going to harass you about continuing in this, but we're going to give you an opportunity after this for the so what now, right? A guy, I've been blasting this all over Facebook, and a guy commented today and was like, less talk, more action. And I was like, buddy, you have no idea. We are about to act, okay? So that's going to be the so what in a little piece here together. So as we get started, we're going to go down the panel here. We're going to ask them to take a few minutes to introduce who they are and what organization they are representing and what particular insight or perspective that they're bringing to this conversation. Diane, take it away.
Sure. Good evening. I'm Diane Manning. I'm President and CEO of United Services, which, for those of you that drive up Route 12, we are in the Dayville section of town. That is one of our sites. We're also in Willimantic. We're the local mental health authority and community, comprehensive community center for community care for individuals with mental health, substance abuse issues, children that have been victims of abuse, and domestic violence victims as well. And community care means outpatient treatment, crisis response, and it also means case management. We also do some primary care work, specifically with a population that is facing some of the toughest times in their life. So whether they are dealing with personal issues, family issues, we're there. And we're there 24/7 for that.
Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Megan Thornton. I work for Generations Family Health Center. I apologize, public speaking is not particularly my specialty. I kind of work behind the scenes. I've been at Generations now almost 3 years. I oversee community health. All that goes with, I oversee a mobile health unit that I'm sure you've seen out in the area, which is bringing healthcare to apartment complexes and libraries. We're trying to meet patients where they're at. I also oversee our Ryan White and infectious disease HIV program. Prior to that, I worked 15 years at Windham Hospital in the emergency department, so I have been taking care of our very vulnerable population for a long time. I also live in this community, so I'm very familiar. Even at a child level, I have 4 children in the school system in this area as well. So I am here to certainly help educate on the issues that we're seeing, but also to learn, obviously, from all of you as well.
Thanks, Megan. I'm Melissa Myers. I'm the CEO at Generations Family Health Center, so I get to work with Megan every day. I've been at Generations for over 30 years. I started as a medical case manager here at our Danielson office, which is right over here on Reynolds Street. We provide medical care there. And as a community health center, we get funding so that folks can come to us regardless of their ability to pay. We have a sliding fee scale and whatnot. So we see folks whether they have insurance or not, whether they have the money or not, to be seen. Our mission is access to care, and that's our only priority. We do take care of the business behind the scenes because we need to keep the lights on, but our priority is access to care, which includes folks that do not have housing, and folks who do not have insurance, folks who do not have friends and family, and folks who do. We see a wide range of people as the patients that come to our health center. And I would just say professionally, because this has been most of my life's work, I'm very committed to this issue. I will say personally, I grew up poor. I grew up without healthcare insurance or healthcare access multiple times as a child. Didn't have injuries or illnesses treated because I didn't have that. And that remained with me. And that's why this work is important to me. It's why I landed in community health. We have it in our hearts, and it's what we do every day. So we're hoping to hear what questions or concerns or ideas people here have, because our work is hard every day. And so we would benefit from your expertise. And then we would love to share whatever we know that you feel you need to know about the topics we talked about. Thank you for coming.
Melissa. Hi everyone, I'm Emma King. I'm the Executive Director at Access Community Action Agency. I've only been there since July, so please. Take it easy. No. Again, I want to thank Diane, Megan, and Melissa, and Westfield Church for hosting us tonight. And I'm so grateful that the partnership that we're developing with the church is happening. So again, Access is the local community action agency that serves Wyndham and Collin counties. We are a federally chartered and state-designated anti-poverty agency. And our mission is merely to support the community in the needs that they have. So what that looks like for Access is that we have a commitment to food security and increasing access to food and food resources. We have a commitment to equitable access to safe, decent, and affordable housing, which brings us here tonight. We run a shelter right on Reynolds Street, across the street from Generations. And our other mission is, again, to help people access pathways to economic self-sufficiency. So that's helping people with case management, navigating barriers and challenges and questions they have in a community space. So the partners to my right are all, medically focused. We are what most people used to call like a basic needs social service agency. If you have a question, you don't understand something, we're here to help you at any level that you need. And again, our focus has been on housing more recently, and we also run a whole weather shelter that begins in December. I'm also local to the area. I live here in Killingly. I have kids in the district. And this issue, I spent my professional career working in housing-related fields, and got my bootstraps up during the 2008 economic crash, where I supported families who were going through foreclosure counseling. And I recognized how housing is really the linchpin that holds folks together. I mean, you can't focus on getting to your job or supporting your kids with their homework if you are worried about the four walls around you and the roof above your head. And so it's been ingrained in me since then, and I'm proud to be at Access working on that mission and continuing in the community.
My name is Rhianne McCabe. I'm the Senior Director of Homeless Response and Supportive Services at Access Agency. I oversee most of the housing programs and all levels of entry there is into them, including overseeing the 2 shelters. I too live here in downtown Danielson. My children live in Killingly, my grandchildren live in Killingly. So there is a very vested interest, and my whole team is here on the 3rd row, and they are cellular about what they do. We have almost all of us in some way, shape, or form have had homelessness touch our lives, and that's what keeps us so driven.
Thank you. So before we go on, I want to acknowledge that there are other players in our community who are doing frontline work to assist our unhoused population. Our downtown local churches are what I like to think of as like the very front line of that assistance. This is, for us, for instance, in the last 2 days, we've helped over 20 people who've come through looking for gift cards, supplies, a sandwich, whatever. That's 20 people in 3 hours in our morning sessions, to give you some perspective on that. We're not the only ones. The other churches in the downtown area do that. Our fuel bank folks work with Salvation Army and help provide assistance on that. Our local food bank folks have been doing this work so faithfully for so many years. And there are many others, so I don't want to imply that these are the only ones whose opinions matter or have a say. There's lots of people who have experience on this front. We just had to figure out a way to move forward, and this is how that came to be. But we are so grateful for all of their work and their experience and their compassion towards some of the people who find themselves deepest in need in our community. One of the biggest challenges I've experienced in working with our unhoused population is not actually working with our unhoused population, it's working with the people who want to help our unhoused population. And what I mean is there's a perception, in fact this happened online. I had shared this event somewhere and a lady said, well, open your doors and roll out some sleeping bags. And I wanted to say, if only it was that easy, right? Like, we give away sleeping bags. I'm here to tell you, if it's a freezing night, I'll be the first one to throw open the doors downstairs and stay all night to make sure somebody's not freezing to death outside. Absolutely. But there are so many layers to this issue. It's not just about, you'll hear somebody, I bet you've heard somebody say before, oh, they just don't want to work. Well, maybe not. A unique challenge we face here in Killingly is that we have our own homeless, who are our own folks who've fallen on hard times, but we also have a transient community of unhoused folks. We are at the literal crossroads of Hartford to Providence, Worcester to New London, the literal crossroads, right? Route 6 and 395, 101 and 395. And so there are people coming through. It's like a Venn diagram. There are things both groups need, but there's also independent needs that those individuals need. So my question to our panel here is, what in Killingly do you find are some of the biggest barriers people are facing in terms of our unhoused population finding being housed? What are some of the things, like if we're gonna tackle this, it's not just about more shelter beds. It's not just about getting a roof. What are the barriers besides that, that we're enduring?
I can answer just a little bit to that.
Loud, yes.
Okay. Having access to a phone,
That's a great one.
number one. The new process, fortunately, unfortunately, there's flaws with everything. Unfortunately, getting into some of the shelters, you have to do an intake with 211 first, which if you've ever used the state of Connecticut hotline, it can take hours. And if you don't have a phone that has minutes or has a monthly service plan, we don't have pay phones. So there's no way to how are you getting a call back? If you don't have a laptop or a smartphone where you can download documents that need to be signed and sent over to the state. Not only that, there's transportation that's an issue as well. It's obviously a little bit easier in the cities where there's buses and there's taxis and there's Ubers and Lyfts. That's almost non-existent out here. Even with medical taxis, I'm sure you've all heard of Veo or MTM. In theory, it's a great service for patients that have Husky and need transportation to doctors. It's not always the most reliable. So if you're getting a ride to be able to fill out an application and your ride doesn't show up and then you miss that appointment to even speak to somebody about housing, you're put back on a list. So it's just this ever cycle that continues when it starts with a phone and having access to a phone.
Thank you.
Right.
So phone, access, yeah, what else?
Big picture at a community level, it's the lack, sometimes just the lack of apartments in the region. We're a rural area, right? We love lots of land. You're gonna have horses, you're gonna homestead. That's really, we live in the country. And I think that sometimes the rest of the state forgets how country we are. And we don't have large housing complexes. We're not building 500 unit complexes, right? And so we're looking at, I used to live in Worcester for a minute, like a triple deck. We're looking at sometimes auditoriums that have been, so I said, we don't have a bulk of available units. So if there are, let's say 20 units in this area that are open, you'll probably have 150 people vying for that availability. And that's the reality is, unfortunately, we just don't have enough housing. And that's at a single family level, that's at all levels. Single family, and down to multifamily units. And there's a lot of other things around that, but it's an availability issue. And so sometimes the barrier is just not being able to find an apartment. And I caveat that with saying, not being able to find an apartment in a place you want to live. There is, and can afford, which we can add on, but we also want to, people are comfortable in their community, they may have resources here. We don't want to say, okay, well, only they'll be able to do is in Homestead. And people are like, well, I don't have transportation. I'll never get to my doctor's appointments, to my job. My kids go to school here. How is that working? And so it makes it really challenging when we try to support people and transition them into permanent housing, because I wish we had thousands of units in town, but we don't, and that's a reality, and that's okay in a lot of ways. If you know, we just don't have affordable housing. I'm sorry to kind of stutter there, but that's also affordable. Other barriers.
I think it is the affordable housing issue and lack thereof. We just don't have units to put them in that they can afford to pay. Even if I put them on a housing program that gives them rental assistance for up to 12 months, what happens then? They're just going to get evicted again, and then we're right back in the same hole over and over again. It's a vicious circle.
So it is, I mean, we've already kind of said this, it's a complex intersectional issue that addresses all levels.
And again, one of the pieces is if you are unhoused, think about how you get the rest of your life together.
Right.
How do you manage your medical care? If you have mental health or substance abuse issues, how do you get treatment for that? Many of the times that we look for housing for people, we have to take into account where are the supports that they need. Where's the laundromat?
Right.
Imagine if you live someplace where you don't have access to a laundromat. How are you going to get a job if your clothes aren't clean, if you're not clean? So all of those things have to do with what is an appropriate place for someone to live in order for them to move on in their life. It's not just having a roof over your head, but our interest is having you recover, to get better, to be able to do better in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to take all of that into account when we're looking for places, and it's increasingly difficult. I talked with my staff today because we got a notice that there is a 50-unit elderly and disabled housing project in Willimantic that's going to be closed down for renovations.
Oh,
wonderful,
right.
they're going to get renovated. There's 50 more people looking for low-income housing now in the market, and they won't stay in Willimantic.
Right.
They will be looking for any place that they can live because their housing is being taken away so that it can be upgraded. But that's the type of thing that the individuals we work with every day are facing.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna say underneath it all is poverty
Right.
and a lack of high income jobs or just livable incomes in our area. I know economists always analyze what is the cost of housing in a particular town and what is the average income in that town and does it balance? And it doesn't, unkillingly. And I would say anyone in this room, or most people in this room, could say, how many paychecks away am I from that particular situation? If I were to have a medical crisis and couldn't work, if I were to lose a spouse, family member, best friend who I'm staying with, whatever it is, fill in the blank, what would my life be like? We have broken families, for lack of a better word, separated families. We don't have folks in safe, stable situations. There are people who are homeless because they're running from domestic violence. There are children that are homeless because their mother's running, for safety. There's folks who lost the one job that paid for, their roof, and they lost it, and so now they're homeless. Like, there's just so many situations. There is not one. There is no one barrier. There is no one magic bullet. It's multiple reasons because we're multiple people and we have different situations. And I think people end up in this place for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's the perfect storm and it all happened at once for someone. They got a terrible diagnosis and they don't have insurance, they lost their job, broke up with a spouse, the list goes on. And that person, they're at the bottom and they're just trying to survive day to day. And so there's so many situations, it's just not the one.
Can I ask you a question? Why have we softened the term? We're using unhoused. That could mean anything.
Sure.
Why don't we say what it is? Homelessness. That covers a broad aspect of the life. homelessness? Is it the, you know, but still, unhoused, it sounds so septic, so simple. But it's not. It's more complicated than unhoused.
For access, the term unhoused is a reminder that sometimes it just is a physical space. Because you can make a home anywhere, in a tent, in a car, stuff, because home is the people that you are around. Unhoused to access defines, it is at its most basic, 4 walls and a roof, right? So being unhoused means you don't have a roof over your head that's made out of something that's not, let's say, tar, right? So it's the 4 walls and the roof. Because you can create a home in a lot of different spaces, and I think we've started using that term because at its most basic, we want to remind everybody that it's about a building. It's about a physical space that people are in, not
The
more
relationships in
right,
the
the
home.
relationships, right,
Because that seems hopeless.
right.
If you don't have home, because that's your safe place.
We're gonna have a time for questions at the end. Another barrier I want to offer is the resentment of. So I'm not from here. Moved here 13 years ago. Found, when I moved up here, what I was expecting was a town full of crusty Yankees, and what I found was a town full of crusty Yankees. But y'all, what I found is like when you broke through to them, people here are fiercely loyal. They're generous to a fault, just good people. But one thing I did notice is, as someone from the outside who came in, was a lingering resentment of when the social services moved into Danielson. Sure. So when probation came, when the court came, when Access came, or its predecessor organizations, when the homeless shelter was built and established on Reynolds Street. And that happened probably at this point 25 years ago, maybe more, definitely before me. And there's a deep resentment of lingering of, if we build it, those people are going to come. And from a Christian perspective, those people are our neighbors, right? There's no those, there's only ours. But from how we help people, that is a barrier from offering people help, is that lingering resentment. And I totally get it, and for our Killing Business Association, they have such great conversations. And I've had conversations with business owners who don't want people sleeping on the sidewalk in front of their shop. 100% understandable. Get it. I also understand that the park over here closes at night, at dusk. People aren't allowed to sleep in the bandstand. That's a no-go. They certainly aren't allowed to sleep there and defecate, which has happened in the last month, right? They also don't have anywhere else to go. And so these are some of the barriers. One thing in conversations leading up to this, and Rhiannon, I'm hoping you can speak to this particularly, is that we are seeing an increase of elderly experiencing homelessness. Can you speak to that a little bit for us?
I can. There has been an exponential increase just in the last year, between 24 to 25. We had a 23.5% increase in 55 plus year olds entering homelessness, and that's shelter and street homeless. So that went through the roof during the shutdown, during the pandemic, and it has been an ongoing issue since then, because the issue is the elderly are coming into the shelter, if we're lucky, if we can get them to the shelter and get them into the shelter. But they're coming with a plethora of issues, like they may have medical issues, and our staff is not trained to deal with those kinds of issues. But there's nowhere else for them to go. There is no other family. There is nowhere else for them to go. The number is climbing every year. The 23.5 increase was, once we hit 20%, I was in awe.
So let's talk about some facts about homelessness in general. what does the state, and this is some stuff I found out in the last couple months, so if you haven't heard this, this is why I want us to all be on the same page. What does the state of Connecticut define as homeless? Like, what situation or circumstance do you have to be in to be categorized as homeless, unhoused, to receive the benefits that are available to you?
Right, so if you are couch surfing and you are going from place to place and you have a roof over your head, the night before you call 211, you are not technically homeless. You have a place to be, you have a game plan. Homelessness is you need to be outside.
In a place not suitable for human habitation. A car, a bench, a tent in the woods, not suitable for human habitation.
And even sometimes in the winter, when we are triaging because the numbers are there, if you are in a car, you are placed on a stabilization wait list because you at least have some kind of roof over your head.
So that means there are circumstances when, if you were living in your car, you don't qualify as homeless for the benefits. Like, take a second to take that in.
Right.
It's not all the time, but that's a reality.
And not even a working car.
Right.
Yeah, right.
They'll give you a car that if it doesn't run, you can't move it, you can't run it for heat, it's just alcohol.
Right.
How many shelters are there in Windham County?
3.
And then, Diana, I don't know if you want to speak to you.
And there are 2 domestic violence shelters as well.
So there are 3. There is one family shelter that just serves individuals and their children. There is one.
There's family shelter in Willamette.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and then there's one, ours, that serves both individuals and families. And then Project Hope, which is in Willimantic, is excitedly actually becoming a 365-day shelter that serves individuals only. So 2 combo, that's us, individual families, 1 family, 1 individual, and then 2 domestic violence shelters. So
And those are family shelters.
5 total.
So as far as like serving just our unhoused homeless population, on sort of the 395 corridor that in my mind is like the quiet corner, how many like homeless shelters are there if we were to like define it as homeless, not domestic violence, just like
1.
one? And how many beds are in that shelter?
We have 50 beds. Our shelter staff are here, and I want to thank them for being here.
Thank you. Keep doing it.
We have 50 beds. We have 7 family rooms that account for 22 of those beds. So those are, and then the rest, about 34 of them. We have a couple beds that we need to get back online are for individuals. So we really serve 34 individuals at a time and 7 families.
So tell us about we also have in the wintertime a no-freeze shelter.
Right.
Tell us how that increases our capacity.
Well, one, I think I really want to highlight the cold weather shelter because the cold weather shelter came out of a conversation just like this in 2018. I wasn't even working at Access. 18, 19. Many of us who were in this room, we had the charrette from the provider community sat around and we recognized that there was nowhere for people to go in the cold. And other towns had stood up emergency shelters in the basement of the town hall and wherever they community centers, but we didn't have that in this section of our county. Willimantic had at the time the No Freeze Project. And out of a conversation just like this, Access, along with the people sitting at this table, we were able to stand up a shelter at the former St. Albans Episcopalian Church. In the back, there's a little red building that has a stage and a very funny 2002 150th anniversary Christmas pageant coming. And we opened the doors and threw up some heaters in the wall and
With a ton of volunteers.
with a ton of volunteers, and we did it. We did it really with donations and some grit, and then COVID hit, and we kept doing it, and it's been open now. We're going into our 5th season. Yes.
How many people does that accommodate per night?
So we have 20. 20 is the number of cots we have. I'm gonna say so. 20 is the number of cots we have. I hope the fire marshal is here. We don't try to turn anyone away, right? So sometimes it does mean setting up a chair. We don't want anyone to be stuck out in the cold. And so the most we've had is 25 a night, and that was last year. We averaged 13 folks a night. And again, it's open from 8 to 8 and anyone can come. And again, it's just where we want to make sure that no one is out in the cold.
So one of the things that I think has drawn such a crowd here that I've definitely noticed in our resident Facebook group conversations around the issue of homelessness is it feels like the circumstance is way more visible to people in the last 8 to 10 months than maybe it has been. My experience since I've been here is that we have long had a population of people who've been housing insecure, long had folks who've needed assistance. But is that perception that the challenges have grown accurate? What do you think has contributed to people seeing it for the first time or seeing it in a new way? I think it's easy to see what we want to see. It's easy to not see what we don't want to see. Those of us who work directly with these communities could go to a map and kind of point out directly to you where the, frankly, tent cities are and places people are crashing when they can. Whenever people come get assistance here, the first question I ask is, where are you crashing? Because I want to know if you need a tarp, because you can put a tarp over you or under you. Anything to keep you less wet is the name of the game on that front. So let's talk a little bit about that. What has shifted in that perception of there just being more than we can handle right now? Say again loudly.
The rent prices.
Rent.
Skyrocketed. I'd be scared to pay rent right now. I pay mortgage and I'd be scared to pay rent right now. The rent prices are through the roof. What they were asking down for an apartment was pretty astronomical when they were asking for a double security deposit, first month's rent, and some are still trying to ask for last month's rent. And when you're looking at $7,000 just to get into an apartment, and you might work 30 hours a week, it's just the numbers aren't, the math's not happening. And that was what started pushing us over the top of the hill.
What else?
I think there's a couple. I think obviously social media and people having access to social media and seeing whether it's pictures or videos or articles being posted in your own communities about the needs. I think after COVID too, with kids being home, with learning at home and then going back and not having as many resources in school, there's a lot of parents, moms and dads, I won't just say it's just moms that stay home, but there are a lot of kids that need a parent at home all the time. And if you are a single parent, how do you work enough when you have a child that needs 24/7 monitoring? And there's not enough sometimes systems in place to help offset the cost that your rent going up and we all know electricity bills going up. I have 4 teenagers that like to shower 16 times a day, and the cost of heating oil. You compile all of that. I think social media, for the good or the bad, has brought a community together in that we do have a lot of the same needs, sometimes at a much higher acuity, but I think looking at it as a humanistic approach with empathy, and I certainly am not going to get political, but I think many more of us can relate to each other knowing that there can be 1 or 2 paychecks. I was a single mom for almost 15 years, living paycheck to paycheck, working night shift with kids, that it was close that I was going to miss a mortgage payment that night. And I think a lot of us can relate to that, and we're moving that, well, it's not going to happen to me, it doesn't happen to me, and that happens to other people. That's not reality anymore. It can happen to all of us. And I think taking that approach and being able to meet your community where it's at, and that's how you get things done. Having just at least that initial conversation.
I also think you said a great point, is that the system to services is complicated. And I talk to folks in the community all the time, and I say to them, like, we're part of the system, and like, it's broken. I don't say y'all, because I'm not from where you're, but like, y'all, it's broken.
Yes.
And we know that, we all know that, and we are working within an imperfect system, right? Because we know there's never gonna be enough housing, there's never gonna be enough money, there's never gonna be enough jobs that pay $15,000 an hour. There's never going to be enough of. And navigating that system is complex, and I do think that among the many factors, some of the reasons why it may be more visible, social media included, is just that people have become frustrated with how complicated it is to navigate what we now call the homeless response system. And Access is trying to localize that in community so that it is more accessible, but some of it is just unavoidable. Like a 2-on-1, we're working on that, we can talk about our program soon, but we're navigating systems at every level. So not only are you trying to navigate the homeless response system, then you're trying to coordinate your medical care, and then you're trying to make sure that you can get wherever you're living is close enough to the drug treatment program that you may need, and it just becomes, it's overwhelming for us to help our clients navigate it. I cannot imagine how it would be if you're trying to navigate it on your own, or you've tried twice and no one picks up the phone, and so you're just like, fine, I'll go to a tent, or I'll come stay at the park, because at some point, it becomes about just kind of giving up, and that frustrates me, and is some of my motivation. It's like, we've got to make this easier, but unfortunately, it's not. It's, are you 2 weeks from homelessness? If you're sleeping on a couch, can you just go lay in the driveway? Like, it's just nuts. We're like trying to manipulate the definitions and what the programs are and eligibility, and we've almost barriered up the system. I would say that out loud as part of the system, which makes access really complicated.
So a thing that strikes me too is, as we're talking about the conversation around homelessness, we're talking about helping people who are currently experiencing homelessness.
Right.
Another challenge is helping people who may experience it.
Right.
Because one methodology of addressing the issue is keep people from becoming homeless. So that's where we should be throwing our resources, right? If you've got a house, let's keep you in your apartment, let's keep you in your place, let's figure that out so that you don't add to that number. There's just so many dynamics. So I'm going to do a rapid fire statistics question here. Sis, get ready, get your data out, okay? I told them I was going to do this, so let's see how prepared they are.
Right.
What is the current count of homeless individuals in Killingly or Windham County?
Hold on. Please define what you mean by homeless.
You tell me.
Okay, great, because of course there's not just one homeless, and I think we should have probably started with some definitions. We have people who are homeless and then people who are unsheltered. If you are living in a homeless shelter, you are still considered homeless. It may be 4 windows, but you're still homeless because it's not your home, it's just a house. And so we count those people still, and then we have a classification, which we hate to classify people, of individuals who are unsheltered. Those are people who are also referred to as street homeless, meaning they are living outside or in a part that doesn't work. And we calculate those numbers differently.
Right. So, in the Northeast, so that is from Plainfield up to the Massachusetts line, and from the Rhode Island line over to Wilmette. Right now, we have 38 households outside.
Outside.
Households outside.
Outside.
Not individuals outside, households.
Right.
Okay?
How are you defining household? People with kids, like how are you defining household?
How they define
Yes.
Their
themselves.
unit, their
So
unit.
it's whatever the family unit is. It might be one individual person, or it could be a mom with 2 kiddos.
Right, yeah.
Okay? Keep going.
So, unsheltered in the whole part of the eastern part of the state right now, we have 160 households outside. And that's from the Mass line down to the shore.
So the issue.
Just in the Northeast is 38.
So it doesn't sound like a lot, but that's 40 of our potential neighbors, or like potential people in communities that we drive through every day that are living outside.
And it's more than 40. Like it's
Right.
40 households,
Right.
38 households, but like
That
that number is higher.
Right.
Could be
Yeah.
double.
Could be double.
That's people being served.
Yeah.
Keep going. You got more.
And then we have the households that are homeless in shelter. We have 85 just in the northeast corner. We have 12 families, and then we have 15 youth, and that's a separate count than your 85.
Youth
Is are the DV shelters in
I
there
don't,
now?
I think you have different, you may have
We
different
have,
numbers.
the DV shelter is 12 beds,
12
and
beds.
there's 2 shelters, 12 beds each, so
Okay.
24 between the 2.
So again, what we're hearing is it's sometimes hard to even say how many people because we're counting, there's so many classifications. Are you 18 to 21? Are you in a DV shelter? Those people we keep confidential.
DV means domestic violence.
You know,
Are
we're
you
not,
a veteran? Can we get you connected to those services immediately? Between 24 to 25, we had a 9.5% increase in homelessness across the state, which 9.5 doesn't sound very big, but it was huge.
For a system that we had been downsizing because we had thought we had handled how to support people through homelessness.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Is that, how do you?
So is that just like the population that you're currently serving? It doesn't necessarily define like the actual need, because there's people
Right.
that might not be reaching out for support.
You hit it right on the head. These are people who have touched the system that's broken. So there are probably way more than 160 unsheltered outside households in Eastern Connecticut. And we don't even know about them. And we are so used to seeing homelessness in an urban context, right? We're so used to seeing, videos on social media of Philadelphia or San Francisco and tent cities under bridges. Our tent cities are in the middle of the woods. We love the woods, but it's hard to find people. And if you're frustrated with the system or don't want to access it, yes, there's far more than what we have on this count. I don't know if you guys want to add numbers.
So that 9.5% increase in homelessness that was just the shelter count. The street count we had was a 45% increase.
So did you hear that? So the shelter count last year went up 10%
Right.
in round numbers.
Round numbers.
But the unsheltered number
That we can find
went up 40%
across the state.
across the state.
That's across the state, but what about Killingly as a whole?
Right. So,
Have the numbers in Killingly from last year
yeah.
increased
Yes.
this year?
Yes.
So my question is this,
Yeah.
why are more people coming to Killingly that are homeless,
Sure.
but not leaving?
Right.
What is the reason that they are staying here particularly? The numbers increase, the resources are available, they're given the opportunity to use the resources, yet they choose to stay.
I appreciate that question. We're gonna have a time for Q&A in a minute. There's a couple things I want us to cover before we get into
But we will answer that.
conversation on this.
I'm sorry.
So let's take a minute to talk about a question of dignity. So it's really easy to talk about numbers, but behind all of these numbers are people, humans, our neighbors, somebody's son or daughter or mother or father, right? And I think it's important for us to note that we can offer resources. We can't force people to take advantage of them. We can't say to folks, we can't lock them in a house to say, now you're housed. We can't make them go to an addiction recovery program. People still deserve the dignity of choice. We talk about this a lot at Christmas time here, whenever people love to do toys, like a Christmas tree has tags on it, and you're like, oh, I'll get this toy or whatever. And we shifted to getting gift cards for families so that the parents had the opportunity to buy it themselves, so that they had the dignity of choice and the dignity of picking out and buying for their kid, because that seems like a kindness. Let's talk a little bit about how we maintain people's humanity in the midst of the circumstances that they find themselves in.
One of the things, we're in healthcare, so what we see a lot is a person needing to choose between paying rent or buying food or paying for their medications.
Right.
And so all of the above is going to keep them safe and productive in society and maintaining relationships and work and all of those things. But it's coming down to, I can do one of the three. I can't do all of them. And so, one of the things when we were talking about what's changed in the last few years, I think people are getting more desperate for food because we're in a food desert. I don't know if you ever heard of that word, and that's just access to affordable food for the people that live in a certain area. And the food pantries are overrun. All the food programs are bereft, and it's more people need it. And so when a person's having to choose and they're sitting in front of you, all right, I can take my heart medicine, or I can go get food, or I can pay my rent. Food's gonna probably win, and they're gonna go live in their car, or they're gonna surf somebody's couch or whatever. And the meds are last, they're always last. But that's what's gonna keep them healthy and safe and able to go to work and pay their bills, et cetera, and it's this vicious cycle. But it's their choice. They're in front of their physician saying, I'm sorry, I can't take those. I need to go get some food for the week. And I gotta get gas for the car so I can move it because they'll tell me if I stay where it is and all, this is their life. And so you have to allow for that. That's their choice to decide what is the priority that they're gonna go with. This happens constantly. This is daily in healthcare.
One of the groups that we are seeing a huge increase is older adults who are losing their housing. And imagine if you and your spouse are living in an apartment that you've rented and you're living on that 2 Social Security checks and one of them goes away because the spouse passes away. And everything that you've anchored with is starting to fall apart. I mean, that's an area where we see individuals who are desperate and they are depressed, and again, they're not taking their medication because they're afraid to leave the house. They're afraid to leave for fear that they won't be able to go back because they haven't paid the rent. We have individuals that we're called out because the neighbors are concerned because they haven't seen them. They're still in that apartment, but the neighbors haven't seen them because they're isolating, they're depressed, they're isolating. And when we start working with them, we realize that they don't have another option. There's no family, there's no natural support. It was that couple, and half of the couple's gone. And so when we're working with them, we're trying to deal with the loneliness and the money and the can you maintain, or can you still live in a place that has stairs and you're 80 years old and you can't get up and down the stairs to the bathroom because the bathroom's upstairs. Just basic things that we're looking at with individuals every day.
So we have a fun phrase at Access that was coined by Kathleen Greyer that says 2 or 3 choices can actually feel like no choices, right? It can be, these are impossible decisions, and we're asking people to make them in an imperfect system.
Right.
Because the spouse died, but Medicare still has costs associated. So it's not, health insurance costs, we all know, are bananas. So,
Especially if you're right before Medicare.
right. So 3 choices can feel like no choices if all the choices are life or death. Starving or eating, sheltered or unsheltered. And we are working with an in-person system. So to the man in the back who asked about why people stay here or come here, I would like to say I think they get stuck wherever the choice took them. They get stuck wherever the last, they're working on the whatever happened after the last choice. Because at most basic, all of our lives are derived by the choices we make. I should not have had Pop-Tarts for breakfast. But it was the brown sugar, and we had this so good, and I bought it for my kids. But then I had heartburn for the rest of the day. So, I made a choice. And we hate that we're asking folks to make impossible choices. You need to take this heart medicine, but I need to eat. I need to pay for my kids' daycare. Like all of these impossible choices. And I think people get stuck, right? I understand that there is a concern that the resources provided by Access bring people here. I think that is sometimes driven by public perception, and I agree, it is a public perception that we are working very hard to turn around, because there are resources in almost every community, and I think if you start talking to town leaders in Chaplin, or our friends that, I don't know if anyone's here from Daily Bread in Pomfret, they think the same. Well, we have our food pantry here, so people are coming here now. It just becomes, again, about the last choice.
And I think that when you have a community that has places like Access or DSS or food pantries, it's because people need them. It's not because we just want to put it here.
Right.
And when you look at data, so I sit on a lot of public health committees, and when you look at data with communities that actually have these resources in their communities, and then you look at more rural areas, even when it comes to substance use and overdoses and fentanyls and fatal overdoses, they are now significantly higher in the rural communities than they ever were here in Danielson or Willimantic. The numbers have almost flip-flopped with the fact that there's just not resources. And then triple that with no transportation to be able to get here to get those resources, naturally you stay where the resources are. That's not to say that I think we're seeing any more. I just think the need is higher now than it's ever been.
So a few things I want to point out before we head to a Q&A time. So here's your warning to get your questions ready. One thing I've experienced here, and I have to remind my own church people, is that people who are experiencing homelessness are not bad people. There is a sense that they are, sometimes people won't articulate it this way, but there's a undercurrent of moral corruption, that they have made some drastically bad decision in their life which has ended them up here and therefore they're not worthy of being helped. That's not true. It is not uncommon for people who are experiencing homelessness to find themselves in desperate situations. And I think we've all, from our own experiences, know that desperate people do desperate things, which is not exactly the same thing as a bad thing. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. So I think we have to come to it from a place like that. We've talked about the comorbidities of homelessness, that it's not just not having a place to stay. It's often is accompanied by mental health challenges, by addiction realities. Not always, sometimes there's realities of that. We talked about the dignity of personal choice, that people still have their own agency to decide how they want to live their lives. And because it's not a way I want to live my life, or you may not want to live your life, doesn't mean it's inherently wrong or morally bad on that front. So I appreciate you addressing the question that we had earlier that I cut off. Sorry about that. That was not my intent to say not to answer, just
No,
not now.
I
I do wonder, Glenn, if you want to come up and grab the microphone. Is there somebody who has a question? Just a reminder, our goal is not to get into the political angles of this, but to approach it from a place of compassion. Who is it? Just turn the, you're gonna have to turn it on. Who's got a question? That in the back over here, all the way back there. Thank you. Say your name, where you live, and then ask. We're gonna keep it to 1 or 2 minutes answering the questions, okay?
Hi, my name is Salisha Hardy. I live right here in Eastern Killingly. I go to Cornerstone Baptist Church. I just want to thank you so much for the work that you're doing in our communities and coming out tonight. I really appreciate it. Kind of in the same vein of what you were just saying, like, what are the common misconceptions that you wish that you could address? We're all here listening, bringing a posture of compassion. What are some of the common misconceptions that you wish you could just address for the group?
Thank you.
That homeless don't work.
Right.
Big misconception. We see about 200 homeless a year at our Generations facility right here for medical care. The majority are working, mostly full-time, or are students full-time. Students at QVCC or a high school in the area or younger. So the majority of the homeless we see are working or students. They're not, there's a misconception that folks who are unhoused are not working, don't want to, etc. I'm not saying there isn't somebody who thinks like that, but I'm just saying the majority we see are not in that bucket.
So I would say the other misconception is that they are not from here. So I will tell you that I did want to set up a couple things about how the system works. As a shelter, we are contracted by the state of Connecticut Department of Housing to provide emergency shelter services. We cannot serve anyone whose last known address was not Connecticut. So if you try to come into the system and you say, I'm from Foster, Rhode Island, and I heard you have a cool shelter. It's like, great. Jacques loves it. He makes really good meatloaf. I heard about the meatloaf. Can I come? The answer is, I'm so sorry. Your last known address has to be from Connecticut. So if you live in Foster, and we have all these resources that we give out on the regular. Here's who you call in Rhode Island. Here's who you call in Worcester or Webster. You have to, at some level, have a Connecticut connection with, hypothetically, an ID. And if we find out in the process of an intake or an assessment, or you even come into shelter, that you aren't from here, we actually move you to where you're supposed to go. And we work with partners across state lines to say, you gotta go back to Rhode Island. Like and that is just a common misconception that it's just folks coming in because they heard we were great, or we heard that there were better benefits in Connecticut. And we do, again, it's not about saying, oh, we don't want you to live in Rhode Island, it's about how we maintain the service system, and addressing. So that's the biggest, I think, ours is up here, but that's for me.
Can I just add
Yeah.
to that? When I was looking at our generations data to get ready for today, of the list, I ran zip codes to see where were they from, because we get the address that they, and I will say 30 years ago, when I started at that site and I was doing outreach to the shelter and to homeless in the area, 90% were from New London, Hartford, Worcester, New Haven, etc., because people got sent to shelters all over the state. Now, when I ran it, 84% were zip codes right here, Quiet Corner. So that's where they were before they ended up coming for services. They were local. I mean, there's some from out of the area because of the shelter and whatnot, but not the majority.
Thank you.
Hi, sorry. Just a follow-up to that. I'm Danielle. I live in Dayville. You said that their last known address has to be a Connecticut address. Does that count? Like if they were couch surfing on someone's house that's just across the line, does that count as their last address? Because it's like a gray area.
You're right.
Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. It's never black and white, right? If you have a photo ID, we typically would use the address on your photo ID. And the staff here, and Mariana can correct me. We'll use, yes, we understand. You have a mom you have a friend, not a mom. You have a friend in foster, and I'm going to couch surf with her, but then she gets in trouble by somebody and kicks you out. We do, if you have a physical ID, we're going to go by that, because we typically need identification at some level. If we don't have anything, we are going to go on what you communicate and then do our best to kind of backfill using supportive services to say, okay, we looked through everything that you told us. We didn't find your birth certificate that you said you were born in. Like, we need to figure out where you're from, and we need to get you back to resources if they're not from here. So yes, that's a great question. It is gray, but we typically use whatever address is on the ID or whatever form of identification somebody may be carrying.
Next. Lynn, yes, thank you.
Hi, my name is Jasmine. I moved to Kenley in January of 2021 as a single mom of 3 kids. I definitely understand how hard it was, especially during that time with COVID. And I do know that Access had great services. And I know there's so minimal, access to all that. But I was a case manager up until a couple months ago. When I became a stay-at-home mom, and I just wanted to share some information that maybe people may not know about. I used to work out in Norwich, and the phone issue, there is, through DSS, it's the Assurance Wireless, and you can apply online, and people maybe could go to the library to apply online. It's really easy. The eligibility is you could be on Medicaid, SNAP, public housing, veterans benefits, and stuff like that. And I have helped multiple consumers do that. Even if my laptop wasn't working, I could do it on my phone, and basic smartphones. But you can also pick what phone you want, of what they have to offer, and it's smartphones, so they are able to access the internet and things like that, basic internet. And then there's also TVCCA. They're out in Norwich, Connecticut. They do service up here as well. They do have multiple case managers, and I know that me being a case manager, there's definitely not enough in this area, and the caseloads are ridiculously high. And I know 211, they only use up so many services that they have to offer, and they help as many as they can, but there's just such an increased need that those services run out. But TVCCA has, they have the Home Again project, which is an emergency housing program that provides rapid rehousing to homeless families with at least 1 child under the age of 18. TVCCA also has the supportive housing program, which offers permanent supportive housing. And they have the Section 8 rental assistance program, which I'm sure a lot of people are aware of. The lists are very long and it's hard to get into now. And for the senior aspect, also located out in Norwich, they do service up here as well. It's called Senior Resources. They service seniors. They assist with obtaining durable medical equipment, paying their bills, applying for state services, repairs in their home, such as grab bars. They help with the installation of ramps as well. So if somebody becomes disabled for whatever reason, there's grants and funds that you apply for, and you end up getting hopefully those services, but it depends on eligibility. Like if you obtain Medicaid and what your income is, if it's a fixed income and whatnot. They also help with stair lifts, so for the elderly or disabled as well, for the stair lifts and ramps. And there's multiple companies. There's actually one, I forgot the name of it. They're across from Ellis Tech. They have the durable medical equipment that they work with, places like TBCCA, and there's also a place out in Norwich that works with all ages of disabilities, whether you're a child, ages 5, or whether you're a senior. It's called Disabilities Network of Eastern Connecticut. They do housing, they do transportation services, and so I just wanted to make people aware, and if anybody wants to stop me or ask me for anything, I can give you those phone numbers and whatnot. But they're really good people and they have great services.
Well, thank you for running through, those are almost all of our community partners. So TBCCA is our sister community action agency to the south. Their case management and housing programs are only for folks who live in New London County. We provide those programs to access. So I'll let Diana do a lot of them. We have rapid rehousing, which is, again, a short-term subsidy.
It is. And we also have 211. We have staff that are right at Access that are doing 211 navigation, so they can get their assessment done right there. What happens is you can call 211. If you can't get through because you're waiting on hold forever, we also we are a 211 hub agency, so whether you're in Danielson, you come into the Danielson office or the Willimantic office, you will meet with a 211 navigator. They will do the assessment in person. We have gone out to the encampments before. We've slung a laptop right on the hood of a car and get right there. So we want to take all those barriers down to connecting people with services.
Because the entry point into the system is this mystical, I'm going to call it mystical, magical 211 assessment. Because we centralized, we call it a coordinated point of entry. So before, if some people remember, in the 90s and early 2000s, you could just walk to Reynolds Street and come into our shelter. That was tough times. I mean, because there was no idea who could be coming. So in like 2008, 6, 7, 8, the state of Connecticut as a state, we didn't, Access didn't decide, Generations, services didn't decide, the state of Connecticut decided we're going to have a single point of entry. And at that time, they decided the single point of entry was to call 211. So for 20 years, we've been telling everyone, on speed, call 211, call 211, call 211, single point of entry. Well, like any system, it became overwhelmed. So in the last 3 or 4 years, we're going back to a dual point of entry. One could be calling 211 still and waiting on hold or whatever we need to do, and the other is to now come to what's called a hub, a 211 hub. Access is one, TBCCA is one in the south. We were on a pilot program for the last 2 years, so if you haven't seen this lasted around, it's because we were on a pilot. The state wanted to see if it was going to be successful, and it is. So we're both going to see people in person. Our hub navigators are here. They're amazing.
Stand up, girls.
Yeah. They're both scattered at our shelter. So the shelter is a site where you can go and have a 211 assessment, and they're also walking around. And so now we have dual point of entry, either calling 211 or coming in or speaking over the phone to a hub. That is how you get into the system if you are interested in getting resources or if you need a shelter. Now again, choice. Not everyone chooses to come into the system, but that's our point of entry. And then we partner along the way with everybody here, all the folks that wonderful woman mentioned, to try to provide supports to either keep people in their house. So the first thing we try to do in the system is keep people housed. We call it diversion. So if you hear the word diversion, our 110% goal is to divert you from coming into shelter. We love you, but we don't want anyone to have to come to a homeless shelter. We would rather figure out some other pathway to keep them stably housed than shelter.
Great.
I know there's tons of questions, but I think it's important. We didn't really talk about the system.
Yeah, we've got a lot of people with questions, so we'll just try to kind of go quickly.
It's going to be quick. Hi, my name's Wendy Cummings. I'm from Dayville, Connecticut. I now live on the West Coast. I'm not going to talk about anything political or anything, John.
Good.
But here's my question, and I think what you're doing is amazing. I took copious notes, and I'm going to share this, and I can tell how passionate y'all are, but who is advocating for you? What support structure are you guys getting, and who is hearing what you're saying? This is great, we're all here, but is it getting it to the right people where you're saying you need phones, where you're talking about laundromats, where people are that close? Like, I think you were talking about choices, and I'm thinking if you have an elderly couple in an apartment house and one of them dies, that isn't a choice.
No, you're
you know
right.
what I mean? That just happened. I get the thing with the three, but who is out there like really advocating for you? Because I'm wondering, and I'm from this town, it's the poorest county in Connecticut. I grew up knowing this, and Norwich is New London County, so that's a little different, but what I want to know is like who's out there advocating for you? Like who's got that big mouth, you know, like me, who's saying, help, like who can we get this from? Because, you know, I see what y'all are doing. I think I want to know who's out there for you.
All right.
Thank you.
I am proud to say that there is great advocacy. So we're part of the Eastern Coordinated Access Network. More acronyms, I'm sorry, you just love them. Coordinated Access Network, that is a consortium of all the folks here and a bunch of other providers from, again, top of Lincoln County all the way to the bottom. We do meet TBCC as my group, and we are part of what's called the Balance of State, which is another act. We all contribute to both the Balance of State, which is a funding, advocacy, and management system, and the Connecticut Coalition to End Homelessness. We also do our own local advocacy. I have to say some big advocacy partner, the Chamber of Eastern Connecticut is a great advocacy partner. Our legislators on both sides of the aisle, I'm going to not be political, but both sides of the aisle are very supportive. I mean, and you all are part of other professional networks. Please take it away. But
No, she's absolutely right. But it is, you're absolutely right, Wendy, it's the higher levels.
Right.
Need to recognize the need, which is why you're here, whatever side you believe of the issues. The topic of affordable housing is going to be on the special session for the legislature with the governor at the end of October.
Right.
In 2 weeks. It's one of the main topics.
And I would say so many times, public policy is challenging because it's typically reactionary, right? We need more phones. Okay, we're going to pass a bill in 6 months for more phones, but then the need changes. So it's reactionary. We're doing as much as we can with our legislators to be more proactive, but it takes time, right? And planful. And sometimes we don't know what the next thing we need will be because COVID will hit and then all of a sudden it's this. So sometimes it's just hard to know, but we have I have to say, I love living in Northeastern Connecticut because we really do a lot of great advocacy. We come together as a community. We know each other. Again, it's small town New England living. You wanted it, buddy.
I'm not sorry about that. I'm not sorry about it. Yes.
Yes.
Hold it close.
I realized if I had the funds, I would build a great big apartment house and bring all the homeless people in. But I'm here as a group from the Lions, the Dancing Lions, and also I'm a member of the Grange. We want to know how we can help. We know all this exists, and it seems to be working for some, but we still end up with all these homeless people. I could collect blankets, but I can't build an apartment house.
I am so glad you asked. Yes.
That you're doing it, and I appreciate it. But we're here because we want to help.
Right.
So what do you want? What do they need? Because, the only thing I thought of was blankets.
There's basic needs that are needed. There are women that are having their periods that do not have feminine hygiene that or something you don't think about that they need. There's personal hygiene kits, being able to wash your hair and have your own shampoo and conditioner and body wash and toothbrush and all of those things, because unfortunately in some of these communities, things get stolen, they get lost, they are carrying everything on them, so they need constant basic item necessities.
Replenishment.
Yes.
So all the groups that we belong to should be collecting things, and where would we bring, distribute them?
I would call
Us. So we're gonna talk about this in a minute. This is how we're gonna end. I'm gonna tell you what's next. And there's something else coming. So there's an invitation that's coming your way. But we're gonna take 2 more questions, and then we're gonna wrap up with that.
This gentleman's had his hand up for like an hour.
Yeah.
Okay, she
So you take care. Okay. Glenn, find somebody else.
Yeah.
My name's Jason. I live here in Dayville. Homelessness has been something that's been a big part of my life. I grew up going to the St. Vincent de Paul Soup Kitchen. My mom was a single mom, disabled, 4 children. We received a lot of help back then. My mom also gave back to the community. She taught arts and crafts in the basement. She actually taught a Bible study in a soup kitchen that was run by a Catholic diocese, and as a Christian, which was kind of amazing. Fast forward, my mom went in a convalescent home senior year of high school. I ended up homeless myself. I couch surfed. There were nights where I was out and about, and I would go to the gymnasium at school in the morning to shower before class. So there are a lot of cases where people are homeless not by choices, it's by circumstances. And fast forward, I've been blessed where I was able to finally give back. Ended up back at that same soup kitchen, working with Malta Ministries. Malta Ministries has been around since 1999. For 26 years, they've served the homeless in southeastern Connecticut, and they've done a phenomenal job. They're based on Grove Street in Groton. They're partnered with, I believe it's Life Water Church is the name of it now, the church they're in the basement of. And what we were doing back then is we would hand out clothes, toiletries, during the fall, the colder months when the soup kitchen was open for meals in the evenings on Fridays. During the summertime, we would do the same thing where we gave out clothes and toiletries. And we also would do bag lunches. We'd have a big thing of soup. We'd have Kool-Aid, just stuff to give out for meals. It wasn't just tied to one church. While Malta Ministries was the one who would collect the clothing, sort through the clothing, put it in bins. They didn't just serve Norwich. They served Groton, New London. Their outreach is phenomenal. The reason why I bring this up is sometimes you don't want to reinvent the wheel. I would encourage Pastor Chapman, Pastor Sam, to reach out to your congregations, reach out to Malta, see how the church communities can come together, to work together to serve our homeless community. Because the way you're going to reach people is going to be appealing to people's empathetic side, those who care about others, and the majority of the churches in the area are going to be filled with people like that.
We already do all of that, though. I'm sorry, but I can't pretend that we don't already do all of that. These people are just telling us that, and we do all of that. So I'm not sure what you think that we're trying to reinvent.
My big thing is it's about collaboration and the need for collaboration.
I don't think you're wrong at all. I think he makes a good point because I oversee 4 sites, and community partners in each town are different. And sometimes we don't communicate as much as we should. I absolutely am guilty of that myself. And there's community partners that are doing the same things we're doing when we should be referring patients to them because they have the grant funding and it should be going to them. I think having open communication and even a database where we can input which church has which supplies and which church needs those supplies. That way we know where to refer patients to. Communication is key for that. And you bring up a very good point.
The other big thing we're dealing with right now is the need for housing and affordable housing. And right now, Killenly has a problem. Our sewer plant's at capacity. We cannot build any housing. We can't bring anything in. The town council in the town is working diligently to try and address that issue. We've been reaching out to our state delegates, our federal delegates, to try and find funding for that. I encourage everyone in here to reach out to those delegates regarding the issue we have with the sewer plant. Because without the funding, we can't increase the capacity. Our ratepayers can't absorb the impact of the cost it would be to increase the capacity of the sewer plant when we're looking probably somewhere northward of $40 million. So we got to do what we can to try and get as much assistance as we can with that. The other thing I do want to say is to depend on the local government for funding for things, you have to be careful, because the one thing I've heard for years has been, I can't afford tax increases.
Right.
I've heard from so many people in the community that live paycheck to paycheck or are on fixed incomes, and the town does try and control the taxes as much as they can without diminishing the services that the town provides and the services that the school system provides. So I feel the important part is for our churches to come together, the Christians in the community to come together, those who, whether you're Christian or not, who just want to help others, is to come together as a community as a whole and work to address this problem. It's not going to come from one certain place or another. It's not going to come from overlapping services where there's another need, where you could have one church that could address this issue, another church address another issue. And it's going to be about everybody coming together is the only way we're going to address this.
So I want to thank you for sharing your personal story. I think that I appreciate the vulnerability in that. And I also really want to caveat my previous statement about choices. I meant choices after something you likely couldn't control. I just want to clarify that, because I do feel, I'm sitting here mulling it over and I'm like, I did not. I meant, like, we know that the impetus is always something you can't control. Death, something happening, injury, illness, and then that sets up a series of impossible choices. And we recognize that. So I just want to make sure that's clear, and I apologize to anyone that misinterpreted that may have thought I was limiting or reducing any sort of situational death, divorce, etc. And I will say, we hear you loud and clear. All of the agencies that are here, I'm not being political, but most of us rely very heavily actually on federal funding. So the programs that we run, the services provided for the Qualified Health Center, or local mental health authority, are funded predominantly by federal, what are called block grants, and they come for different things. Ours is for community service. You guys
Ours is just straight from the feds for health services.
Health services. So we are doing our best to, we're bringing, so part of it is the competitive nature of bringing those resources here. How many grants do we write every year? How many grants?
We have 60.
We have hundreds. Dale's here for fun. How many grants do we write? Hundreds.
Yeah.
Because we are trying to make sure the services that we're bringing, we're making sure that they're funded so we don't have to do anything relies on. Again, we get we are very, at Access, we are very appreciative for the small contribution we get from the town of Killingly. There's Killingly public officials here. Tammy, I see you. Thank you for your support of the work we do using what I know are ever competitive town tax dollars. But most of the shelter, I'm going to be honest, our shelter is funded predominantly by about 80% federal funding. And these are competitive environments that we write to HUD directly to have the services come to the area because we know we need them. So I don't know if I just want to, I know there's other people who are.
You want time for one
I
more?
just wanted to comment real quick that ultimately we are here as local pastors. I mean, you even asked, we are here, Jason. We are here tonight because we want to hear you address what can we do for you.
Right. Let's go. Okay. Right. Okay. Can we
Get one more.
Well, hi everybody. I'm Sam. I'm new to Killingly. I'm the pastor of Faithway Community Church. And I gotta say, this is really cool that so many of you showed up. And it's good to see that you guys care about this stuff. I'm excited about caring about what you guys care about here at Faithway. And I do have just a question out of curiosity, and again, just based on the fact that, yeah, I agree. Well, we're here because we care. We want to figure out how to get engaged. And thank you, Jonathan, for putting this together. I'm a big fanatic of creating intentional next steps, not just so that we can house and sustain something that obviously we would love for us to help, ultimately not be. There are always going to be people that are going to be sick. There are always going to be people that are experiencing homelessness, but the goal is obviously to help people, restore their lives. What would you say to the question, what steps are specific out there with reference to development, meaning jobs, workshops or opportunities for people to take that next step?
There are several adult education learning centers. There's EastCon, there's Job Corps in Willimantic as well. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it is certainly a start. Whether it's getting a GED or it's a certification, there's night classes, there's English as a second language for people that are learning English to be able to take our driver's license test and all of that. It is certainly a start. There's a lot of great people that work at these organizations that help people. And also a lot of these places, there's job opportunities, Connecticut job opportunities right in Willimantic that will help pay for people to get their CDLs and will help get them employed and will help supplement the cost of paying them to that company for like the first 6 months if they employ them and hire them.
You mentioned Willimantic, but what about China?
There's EastCon in Killenly as well.
And there's a Department of Labor American Job Center on West County Ave. Unfortunately, and that's something that we're working on, is they're only open like a limited amount of time. They're a limited service center. So this is where we're talking about conversations about transportation, getting folks to the centers that have more resources. Because it becomes about population density. There, you know, the state decides, okay, there's not enough people here to have a full-time center. There are, okay, we know that. But again, it's about resource allocation. So yes, there's an American Job Center here. There's EastCon. Killenly Public Schools now has an adult education program, which is very exciting. And what else we got, Ray? Where do we send over? Where do we go?
QMC was offering some classes too last year. I don't know about this year, but they were last year. We are also, we were doing an overhaul at our homeless shelter, and we were working on doing some workshops and classes right inside the shelter to make some of our sheltered guests more
ready,
more stably ready to be good tenants, and what that meant, and what it means to go down and get yourself a bank account, or you can put even if it's a couple bucks every week. Some of our youth that are enrolled in our programming, some haven't been very nurtured. They don't understand why it's important to be cleaning out the fridge once a week and checking on. We want to make them good, viable tenants going forward. So we've been working on some workshops inside the shelter.
And Dale would ask the board to fire me if I forgot to say that we actually opened a housing education resource center above the Chubby Dog. I mean, you get your coffee, and then we can come. We're doing a variety of workshop programming. All is available on our website. Information. We say it's housing, but we're talking about financial literacy. We're talking about, we had a partner from Girls and Tools from Killenly. Her signs are everywhere. They're fun. They're pink. Came and did a demonstration on like basic electrical stuff. So we're running a lot of little workshops that we've been piloting over the last year. Mortgages 101, financial literacy, household budgeting, understanding your utility bill, all these things, and they're right above the Chubby Dog. And we're working to develop that out, and I would be in trouble if I didn't mention it. So yes, so we're brilliant in those services. Yes.
One last question.
Yeah, Tracy's been very patient.
God, give them the eyes to see, the ears to hear, and the faith to understand. We don't need phones. We need toilets. I'm going to tell you the other side of this story. I'm homeless, and the system has failed me and many others. I have a right to face my accusers. And there's so many homeless out here, this beautiful town that I came to, that I love. And you, and all of you, there is a solution. First, you need porta potties, because I'm not a camel. And God bless every one of you for coming here, and many other churches I've talked to. But there is a solution. You have a drive-in theater down there, and it kills 3 birds with 1 stone. You gather them up behind all these garbage. I got pictures, thousands of pictures. Now these are property owners, And I got arrested, and I'm looking at a 1.5 years in jail. I'm not a drug addict. I'm not a mental person either. And I got compassion. And we have dogs that literally almost bit my face off. And everybody's hardened their hearts towards the homeless because they have mental illness or they have addictions. But when I go to the police to make a report, they have hardened their hearts so much, and the first responders, to going to that shelter. Now they know up there. I had a voucher, but I couldn't get to the place to get my voucher. I'm disabled. I'm standing here with fractured pelvis from trying to get under a roof so I wouldn't get rained on. Because you have cops and individuals going around slicing up these expensive tents that you all provide. I can't tell you how many tents I bought myself. And I hate to say this. I mean no disrespect to any of you. But I want you to come out for a week with me, with the gear that you're giving. It's called false hope, people. These tents are not waterproof. These sleeping bags, I love you all, but this is the cold reality of it. You need below 0. You see this I'm wearing? I just bought this from right down here. Was that the beautiful store down here? Okay. $120 so I can stay warm. And it still ain't keeping me warm. Now, if you gather all these people behind the stores and you get people that want to get if the Amish can raise a barn in a day, don't tell me I can't find hand to the plow people, because I can point them out. Not about donations, it's about having hand to the plow. We need electricians. How many buildings do you got there, Access, that need to be refinished and get rid of the mold and the rats and all that?
Enough with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, like.
And I do believe that people that work there need to have respect for the building, and they should have a scrub brush in one hand and a bucket in another. You have no idea. I've got thousands of pictures that I tried to turn in to the police, and I was ruled. Now, where I come from, I go to the police, I need to speak to Officer so-and-so. Oh, he's out on duty, he'll be back in 45 minutes. Up here, I got grilled by 2 cops for 45 minutes because I wanted to speak to an officer that has the hand of God on him. My daughter died of heroin. I did tough love. I went. Police issued handcuffs. I'm not a Lovart. I don't have a record, but I'm getting one. We can round these people up. And then you want to know the true people that are seeing the brunt end of it? And they got handcuffs on. Your library over here. And they can't do half the things that they need to. Here, wait, we got any plumbers in the house? Let me show you something. They got 6 bathrooms over there. You take 2 of them and you turn them into showers, because God knows I need a shower. There is no transportation. I am not able to walk. And I get stranded. You think I got the money to pay? $25 just take me down the road. Do we need cops and this sadistic, narcissist woman that didn't get arrested by me getting attacked by 5 pit bulls? The cop told me to catch them. I got the pictures. We're coming down for our yearly split the tents and throw it on the... This is real, people. I'm tired of cleaning up human feces. There are people that don't have a voice right now. I am it. I am not a speaker. And there is abuse in the system. And you can't tell me any different. Staff was supposed to take care of a baby. I lost my cool. It shouldn't take me 45 minutes to clean a nipple. The baby never had a warm meal. They hide behind their paperwork. I'm telling you right here, I believe in God. I believe in hand of the plow. We don't need money. What we need is tradesmen. I watched over here. I love watching it. It's like watching a ballet. They put a roof on a day, people. You put them in the drive-in theater, you get them secured, right? And then you take the other people that are into it, and I'm grumpy granny out there, I'm grabbing your ear. Cleaning these porta pots is a nasty job. And I went and I told this guy, I go, this is a little league for little kids. And I looked in there, and I'm sorry that some of these homeless are tearing up our town. And they are coming from other places. They got them from, what is that, Enfield? Now in the shelter here. You got over 1,000 people out there. They would fill that thing. You're killing 3 birds with 1 stone. You need labor, you need a laborer, you get them down there and you have the police scan it. You want help? Give the people some dignity, some self-worth. There are so many skills out there. You got welders. You got masons. They can do this under a watchful eye of a hand of the plow guy. That's how you build a city. Not by donations, it's hand of the plow. Who can donate time? You got ladies here, their skills could be making blankets. God knows we need them. But we got people going around, and the cops. We're losing too many teenagers. I'm seeing 12-year-olds. I can brag about some of your kids. I can. Now I'm out there. I'm seeing people. That library, they can really help. They need those 2 bathrooms turned in. They're juggling homeless with mental illness and drug addiction with children right there. They're given at Big Y a place to charge their phones. They took it away because they abuse it. You know how many kids, young kids? I lived behind McDonald's for a year. You want to know how many rapes? These aren't homeless people. These are, I'm sorry, don't take this wrong, I call them stuffed shirts. They're not all poor. They're not all homeless doing these heinous crimes. I went to the police because there's people circling the shelter looking for these drug addicts so they can use them and abuse them. Nobody wants to hear me? Who's protecting me? Now, isn't a lawyer supposed to be working for me? Don't they want to know why I'm out here? Why aren't the cops asking these questions? Why are they grilling me like that? I have to ask you all that. These are the untold stories. And it's very sad. You can't learn what I know in a book. I was supposed to work for Vandenberg Federal Pen as a correctional officer. I have no record, but I've got one now. I love my kids. I love your kids. But we don't need 12-year-olds going out and getting high with the druggies. And what's this? You're stepping over them. I just got arrested. I stepped over one. And I'm crying. He's half in the water, and I stepped over him. I called 911. Okay? It's automatic 72-hour hold. I see him the next day on the bus. These are real issues in our community. And I'm telling you, if you even wrangled them all up and you got, his name is Grayson, by the way. Pastor, you did say we had a mess over there. I heard about it. It was my friend, Grayson. And the guys that go around cleaning these porta pots that y'all don't think about, or the bus ladies or the librarians, what they're seeing. Transportation is your problem. Otherwise, I'd be up in a house right now. But I'm not. And I'm forced to walk 2 miles with this, so they won't slip my tent. You can plead out. I didn't do nothing. I went into the store and I kept complaining because she was there and so was the manager. She said I accosted her. No, I did not. I repeatedly got attacked by these dogs multiple times. I got a picture of her and her 4 friends, and they think it's funny.
Tracy, thank you for your time. I want to say thank you. I know you know me, and right? And I want to say thank you for your testimony because it sets up. You're saying all the things that we want to talk about. It is about the plow. It is about the time. It is about the towns. It is about the wisdom. What can you do now to advocate for you, right? And I understand.
Everybody in access agency, every shelter should be drug tested. I'm there. I'll do it.
Tracy, I understand, and I understand, and I understand that, and I understand your concerns about access. But I think you did set up what we're going to end with. Your testimony is super powerful to what we need to do next. So
we need toilets, people.
I appreciate that. And I think
Porta pots.
I appreciate
it. Guys are cleaning.
So,
you need to think about it.
Thank you. Thank you. And I appreciate your vulnerability and your honesty, and that's exactly right. What the question is, what's the next step?
Right.
And there are all kinds of directions we could go from here. And the next step is on November 2nd at 5:30 downstairs here. You don't have to remember to do this. I'm very glad to partner with any church, anybody. Come back. And we're going to take what we learned tonight, what we heard tonight, and begin to distill into what can we actually do. From the testimony we just heard, from the experiences that were shared up here, you heard all kinds of directions that we could go. I'm sure you're popping your head, well, I could do that. I can make blankets. I'm an electrician. I know for a fact we have one in here. But we can't do it all. And we need to decide what are the things we're going to focus on. So the next step, November 2nd, 5:30 here. That's Sunday afternoon. I thank you so much for your time. I understand we've got a few minutes over what we scheduled. There are treats at the back in classic church fashion. Before you go and end the way we end here at Westfield, I'm going to give you this. I hope you go with the grace to never sell yourself short. The grace to risk something big, something good. The grace to remember that this world is too dangerous for anything but truth. It's too small for anything but love. You gotta take your minds and think of them. You gotta take your lips and speak to them. You gotta take your hearts and set them on fire. Go in peace. Take care. Thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for your time.
you.